BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
All right, fellas, it's Will Hughes here. For those that you don't know, I'm sure there's plenty of you. I'm a footballer for Watford. I normally only make it onto local radio, so it's an absolute privilege to get a call up for this. I will be back later with a question, but before we get going, the following podcast will contain some bad language and adult themes. Over to you, boys.
Crouchy P on the MIC. We're doing this just for free.
Do you give it the sniff test? Peter, come do the quiz.
Feel a little bit like Dirty Dan.
You and your two silly little mates.
Silly little mates, just wrap it up.
Is it weird doing one of these whilst wearing clothes?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be cruising at 2,400 feet.
Let's free the ketchup.
So much to get off my chest.
And you've always had magnificent teeth.
How bad have things got?
It's going downhill now, isn't it?
The nation will be back stronger. Welcome to another episode of That Peter Crouch Podcast with me, Peter Crouch. We're working from home again with Chris Stark and Tom Fordyce. You right, boys?
Yes, mate.
Hello, boys. How are we?
Yeah, good, Tar. Good having Will Hughes on the podcast. I was hoping you'd go for it slightly more, just in terms of the presentation, but you know what? He is a footballer, end of the day.
He's a rare footballer who went to boarding school. I don't know any other footballers who went to boarding school.
I think it's great. Like you say, he's involved in the pod. He's interested in it. He's a great player as well. So listen, he's welcome on our podcast anytime. He's not famous enough. Listen, if you're into it, then you're into it.
There's something I learnt today from my boys. It's not as good as the Normans. It's the sort of stuff that if Radio 4 finds out about it, we're not in great shape. So today I learnt about poo footballers. So poo footballers is any footballer or football-related person who's got poo in their name. Etienne Capoue. Another Watford one, Daniel Poodil. Managers, Chris, one for you, Tony Pulis. They've also suggested Jurgen Klopp. And presenting their poo footballers is Mark Pugach.
Yeah, I was going to say Mark Pugach, yeah. Unbelievable. So homeschooling's going well, is it, Tom?
Homeschooling's going well. The second issue I've had, boys, is one of the teachers at the boys' school is called Mrs. Snook. I have found myself absent-mindedly referring to her as Snook Doggy Dog. And there's a possibility when they go back to school that you're going to have a load of 6-year-olds in assembly shouting out, Snook Dog! At this poor woman.
Do you know, talking of games, right? I used to play the best game. This is going to change your commute if you live in London. So you just make up different words for a station. For instance, Vagina Heineken.
Oh,
right.
Cock Fosters.
Cock Fosters.
Right, it's unbelievable. We're going all day. It's fantastic stuff. It's one of the best games ever.
My favourite train game was where you had to get from one side of the carriage to the other without touching the floor.
Another one we used to do as we were kids, obviously 16 years old, so I wouldn't advocate this. I don't know if you've ever been to Chigwell Station. You've got to wait a long time for a train. So as soon as the train pulls up, you get one of the lads' boots and lob it at the other side of the platform. So we're all piling on the train and they've got to get back round, get their boot and get back on the train before it leaves. Otherwise they're waiting another 20 odd minutes. That was always entertaining, just watching someone scramble over the bridge. You know when you have to leg it over the bridge and then back round.
There's a whole sport to be had on the train, isn't there? There's we should do one in your honour, Crouchy. I'm thinking, can we visit every ground of a team that you've played for in the UK and have a pint in their most famous bar?
No, I've got a better one for you. We'll just do one, and then end up in the Samrat. So you'd go from my local where we record the pod. A couple of those, 2 or 3 of those ones that we record the pod. It's like a pod crawl.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much.
Mate, a pod crawl.
And we'll get those little blue plaques put on the front of every place on this pod crawl. Should we get a blue plaque for the Samrat as well? It feels like it's the kind of place that needs it.
Could I just buy a blue plaque and say Bob Geldof lived in my house or something like that?
Totally, yeah. I mean, there'll be a random one to get.
I don't know why it's Bob Geldof, but
Can you
He was
imagine
a jobbing actor.
someone wants to buy Crouchy's house? It's quite interesting because it's Peter Crouch, England legend there, but actually they're not that interested. However, Bob Geldof, oh yeah, Keane.
What I'm trying to get at is that, can I just throw a blue plaque on and do whatever I like? Is that a possibility? Or is there, as the heritage people say, that's not allowed? Is there a thing to say you can't?
I think if you didn't brand it as a English heritage one, I think you could probably get away with it.
But hang on, I want to go back to this Podcrawl idea because I think it's a genius name and there's money to be made. So let's say we could find enough places. We get blue plaques outside. We should probably do the Podcrawl. We could even do one of them bus tours, like load everyone onto buses and bring them round on that.
Boys, I've got good news for us. There has been more music sent in for our... Remember, we were searching for a new theme tune to replace the rubbish one. Do you remember our favourite from last week? It was this one from Sandy and Greg.
Yes.
Not bad, is it? Do you still like it, boys?
I'm a big fan of that. I really am. Oh, look at this.
It's good. It's definitely Nick's off, knock on wood, though, isn't it?
This is good.
We're passing the pod all the way to Crouchella.
Contains some strong language and adult themes.
So that's Sandy and Greg. Today,
I like that.
Let's start with Steve's effort. Eclectic from Steve Lamb. Was that a little sample of the Champions League theme in the middle?
Yeah.
I don't know. I like it. It's just a bit higgledy-piggledy.
No, it's good. Look, we asked for people's attempts. That was definitely different.
Is that a polite way of saying that was shite, Chris?
Well, what do you reckon?
Well, you've just put that back on me, but I did ask you the question.
I don't think it's right for this podcast.
Oh, imagine being dumped by Chris.
Wow. It's not me, it's you.
I've started crying. Chris is going, you've done nothing wrong.
What's a Tom Fordyce dumping like? I bet it's really wordy. I bet you write a poem.
I messed up massively once. I tried to say to this girl, just because I didn't like her didn't mean that she wasn't a wonderful person. But the metaphor I tried to use, was, let's say I had a bowl of custard. If you didn't like the custard, it wouldn't affect the quality of the custard. The custard would still be considered quite tasty by other people. Her face.
Actually, no, hold on. Did you actually describe her as custard?
I mean, that must be the worst dumping I've ever heard of.
It was bad.
Outrageous.
How did she react to it?
She went silent for a bit, and then she reached across the table and she held my hand and she said to me, "What has happened in your past that leaves you unable to commit?"
How do you answer that?
What a shout! What's happened in your past? Like, that's obviously her processing the fact that she does. She's being dumped and it can't be her.
Yeah.
Do you reckon anyone has said to someone whilst dumping that they'll come back stronger? Do you reckon it's been used in that context?
100%. Yeah, I think that's the more aggressive take on it. I think they'll be like, I don't need you anyway. I'll come back stronger.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't say that I've ever been dumped. Like, not that I'm like large in it, but I've been ghosted.
The temptation is, when you've heard nothing back from them, is to think, well, I know what's probably happening, but just in case I'll send them a message.
I'm that guy, totally. I was quite relentless in the text messages afterwards, just double checking.
Do you know what's terrible though? Like, I think though, when people start getting aggressive, if you get a custard pie, you just get, you're getting blanked. Like, deal with it and move on. It's not like, you can't get angry about it, can you?
It's like getting a red card. You have to if you get a red card, you have to walk off. What you can't do is do what we might refer to as a Joey Barton when he gets sent off on the final day of 2012. He's elbowed Carlos Tevez and then he gets the red card and then he boots David Silva or Sergio Aguero. I can't remember which one. He boots him on the leg. That is the equivalent, Crouchy, of what you've just said.
Yeah, don't be a Joey Barton dumper.
Another tune, boys. This one is from Eddie. Quite glam sounding. Bit Slade.
Whatever you want.
Whatever you need.
Say you everybody okay. Bum, bum, bum.
It's got a vocoder going.
Oh, that's nice.
Waterloo.
It's Waterloo.
How does it feel if you won the war?
This is good though. It sounds like a proper theme tune, doesn't it?
No, it's nice. Oh, I like it. I like that.
Nice one, Eddie.
Best we've heard today.
We've had one from Kyle.
It's podcast time with the Robot Man, the friendliest guy in the football land. Something to listen to when times are tough, so pass the pod and share the love. How we all want to be at Crouchella. Crouchy is such a lovely fella. Talking about kickabouts in the park with Tom Fordyce and Chris Stock. His two silly mates just wrap it up. We never want you to give up. We can't wait any longer, so hurry up and be back stronger. We hope it always lasts. That Peter Crouch podcast. Peter Crouch. That Peter Crouch podcast.
Oh, yes. Beautiful.
Oh my God. That's got the feel-good factor, that one, isn't it?
Lyrically, that was our best effort, surely.
He's managed to quote an angry Abby Clancy there as well.
Yeah,
It's
amazing.
in a happy song.
She'll be so pleased that she's been quoted on that one. Look at this. This is what I'm dealing with.
Oh my God.
I'm just panicking because the dog's got diarrhea and I can hear him crying and it's Pete's job to take him out.
The dog's crying?
She's just barged in and she's telling me, with a face mask on, telling me the dog's got diarrhea.
Those face masks are fucking terrifying though, aren't they?
No,
like,
honestly,
when you
mate,
see them, like...
So Mondays and Wednesdays are my days to do this.
Does it peel off in one go, or is it?
Look at that.
Yeah, but Crouchy, if you passed that on the landing, right, you'd shit yourself, wouldn't
Mate,
you?
it's happened to me. I got, mate, honestly.
No, I don't mean it
you-
like that, Abs, obviously. I just mean the
Listen,
mask.
that's
Like,
right, yeah. I have though. Like I've come upstairs from being downstairs, and like I've walked in, and she's in the bed with that on. It's like, oh my fucking God, Freddy Krueger's in, like, murdered her. And
All the girls wear face masks.
well, listen, I've had one on. I've had one.
Okay, I'm going to
Hey.
bed.
No, like Krueger.
oh, okay.
Cheers, Abs.
If you hear the dog crying, please pause this podcast so Pete can take him out because he's got diarrhea.
Probably just saw you and
you hear
shat
that?
itself.
Touche, Chris. Touche. Okay, you pair of plunkers. Good night. Mwah.
Crouch has done the robot again because it's 100 Premier League goals for Peter Crouch.
That Peter Crouch podcast from BBC 5 Live.
Boys, I've just realised that the whole point of this episode is to get people's questions and stuff for you, Crouchy. We haven't done one yet. So should we?
Have we not?
It's just not happened.
I just forget that we're recording this. I think I'm on like a Zoom call with my pals.
If you want to email us,
It's peter.crouch@bbc.co.uk.
all right, let's kick it off. So this one is from Ethan. If you could build your perfect player from players you've played with in your career, who would you choose? Right foot, left foot, speed, strength, touch, heading, and mentality. You can only choose a player once.
Oh Christ!
Let's start you off on right foot.
I'm going for David Beckham because for someone who can place a ball anywhere he wants, it'd have to be David Beckham. I mean, Steven Gerrard could do the same. What an unbelievable passer of a ball. But I just think if you look at some of Beck's free kicks, I mean, I watched it firsthand, and we all know how good Bex is at free kicks. But I mean, 100% of the time, we're hitting the target, and 3 or 4 will go in, if not all of them. And it's just ridiculous. A 1 foot, I don't think there's many better in the game, or has been.
This player has got the right foot of Beckham. He has got the left foot of
Charlie Adam, parched.
Oh.
Do you know Paul Lambert said something that rings true? He said Charlie Adam could hit a midgie's dick from 40 yards.
That's a fact, is it?
That was a direct quote from Paul Lambert.
That's not even... I don't think I've ever heard that quote.
Yeah.
We should definitely put it to test at the next Crouch Fest, whenever that is.
A midge's dick is so small that we'd have no way of clarifying.
What we do is we dress someone up as a fly.
Now we're talking.
If
Do
he
you know what
hits
I mean?
if he hits him,
And he's
it's,
got to hit him in the bollocks. And if he does, imagine the crowd. They'll go mad for that.
right,
They'll love
we go
that.
mad. But you could, honestly, like obviously I'm joking around there, but I'd always say to him, because he knew I was like one of the biggest threats at the corner, and he just asked me before the game, how do you want it? Do you want it driven? Do you want it curled? Similar to Bex in some ways. You only sort of get the taste for it when you're training with these players every day, And I don't think there's many people who've trained with Charlie Adam that would tell you there's many better left foots around than him. And I'm talking this, and I'm going, listen, I've played with Gareth Bale, who had an amazing left foot. Ashley Cole, players who.
Shaqiri, I thought you might stick in there.
Shaqiri, yeah. I mean, Shaqiri's a class act. I mean, he could do things different to Charlie in some ways, like a bit more sort of guile and weight maybe, but Charlie could do everything with that left foot. He could open a can of beans.
What about speed? This has got to be Bale, hasn't it?
I mean, I played with Kyle Walker as well, who's a flying machine, but there was that period. Obviously, you always remember that game against Maicon in the Champions League for Inter Milan when he was playing on the wing, left wing, and I mean, I've never. He gave Maicon 10 yards, I think, at one stage. And for someone just up and down, just constant pace, Aaron Lennon, another flying machine. But
Yeah.
for me, it's got to be Gareth Bale pace.
Touch is an interesting one, isn't it?
I've always sort of prided myself on that fact. I always felt that my touch was decent, but I'm going to go for Luka Modric. The thing is because everything is instant, everything's killed. It's like touch isn't a thing, and I see it a lot with the Spanish players. I always remember Iniesta, Xavi, Fabregas. You just give it to them with a man on. It's not a bother. It doesn't matter if you're marked or someone's tight up your ass. And the first touch is not thought about. It's just instant. You could blast the ball into Luka and it's just taken care of.
What about strength? There's an obvious one I was thinking of, Chris, for this. All the things we've heard about Robert Huth.
Huth, surely, yeah.
Surely it's Huth.
Definitely. I mean, definitely. But the thing is with Huth is that, there's strength is there. But it's strength combined with aggression. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I think what makes him seem more scary is because he's so fucking aggressive as well. I'm talking absolute strength. I would say Sol Campbell. I mean, John Carew. I remember marking John Carew once. Obviously, I wasn't in this. I didn't share a dressing room with John Carew, but I remember picking him up for corners once when he was at Villa. I've never known a stronger man than John Carew. I tried to sort of like give him a bit, and he just put this arm in front of me, and it was just an arm. There was nothing, like no body behind it. He just put an arm there, and I just couldn't get past it. I was like, "The hell's in that arm? It's got a bag of sand in it or something." You could not get. It was like an iron rod. One of those ones where you go, ooh, and I thought, ooh. I won't try that. One of those straight away you go, I'm not going to try that again, ever. But Sol was the same. Big Sol was a strong man.
Chris, there's the fact about John Carew that you might like. John Carew has got arguably the worst tattoo in football. It was meant to read, Ma vie, my life, mes règles, my rules. Unfortunately, because he got the accent on the E wrong, John Carew's tattoo actually reads, my life, my menstruation.
That's not ideal.
What else have we got, Chris, on our list?
We're up to only a couple left. We need heading.
We all know my admiration for Les Ferdinand. He was easily the best that I've ever seen head of football.
And mentality, I'm guessing Gerrard?
Yeah, Stevie for me, only because you win a game and then they're just on to the next one. It's like they've forgotten. It's like it hasn't happened. That kind of mentality was quite alien to me. I was like, well, I've just scored a couple of goals here. Like, let me enjoy this one. It was like, no, back onto the next one. And that kind of winning mentality. You've seen the Jordan documentary now. I know I keep calling it a Jordan documentary, but
Amazing.
The Last Dance. It's just incredible. You see someone with that kind of mentality to just keep pushing all of his teammates to the level that he's at. Listen, I'm not putting Stevie on the level of Jordan, but what I will say is he dragged people up higher than they could ever thought that they could have got to. So, and you look at, the best example of it is 2005 in Istanbul. It's not, you go through that Liverpool team, there's so many players that are below par that have been dragged to a level that are probably beyond their capabilities by Steven Gerrard. And I think, he made me a better player. He made me think about my game a lot more. And I know he did that for a lot of people in the dressing room.
So let's do a quick recap then. We've got the right foot of David Beckham, the left foot of Parched, the speed of Bale, the strength of Sol Campbell, the touch of Luka Modric, the heading of Sir Les, and the mentality of Steven Gerrard.
Someone will Photoshop that together, and I can't wait to see it.
If they could, that would be amazing, wouldn't it, Chris?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a challenge, isn't it?
How do you get speed in there?
How do you get the mentality?
Listen, that's a top player. That is a top player, that.
Back to the Roy Keane gallery stuff that we've been talking about in the last few podcasts. Alex says, I met Roy Keane when I was in a cafe in Hale back in 2011. As he was about to leave, I asked him for a picture. Roy turns and says, no, and walks down the stairs. 2 minutes later, to my astonishment, Roy Keane comes back into the room, sees me and says, my wife says you made her day and told me to go back upstairs, so here's your fucking photo. Look, we've got the photo. It's just come through. And incredible scenes. Roy Keane is sort of smiling, but it's just wonderful knowing that he said no, gone downstairs, and his missus has sent him back up.
He looks happier in this one than a lot of the others.
He does, but the caption is still good because he still said, here's your fucking photo. But yeah, we are compiling a load of these. There's social media accounts doing the round. Can I have a photo, Roy? So we talked about maybe trying to set up a gallery. I think we need to do this over the next few weeks, get it properly sorted.
Yeah. Have we had any leads, boys? Any gallery owners get in contact?
There's one guy that got in touch, and it's in the Portsmouth area, this gallery, but apparently his mum runs the gallery. So this guy, I don't know if he has control to be able to do this, is saying maybe we could set up the Roy Keane gallery there.
Fantastic news.
Going to do it. It needs to be done properly, doesn't it? Sounds good.
Is there other people that we need to bring in from the art world to maybe get involved in this?
Can we not get an art critic, someone to come in and sort of...
Art critic, great idea.
Just dissect them and say, look at the moods and look at the backgrounds and how this picture's speaking to us.
I thought of a couple of people. Who remembers Neil Buchanan?
Art
Attack.
Art Attack, yeah.
I think we need to get Neil Buchanan back because he's the epitome of someone that needs to come back stronger. He's been missing for ages. It would go mad. So really, I just wanted to kind of put a bit of an appeal out there to two people. One is Neil Buchanan from Art Attack. The other one, of course, is Banksy. Been thinking this for a while, right? You just don't know. We've got a chance our arm here. Banksy, if you are listening to this, and there were some rumours actually that Neil Buchanan was Banksy.
Really?
But it would be amazing if we could get Banksy to pass the pod, because Banksy just needs to go and do a little picture of Roy Keane eating an ice cream on a wall somewhere.
Stenciled on a wall.
Yeah, maybe just right past the pod. It's just an appeal to Banksy. I don't know if he takes requests. I assume he doesn't.
Obviously, he doesn't want to be unmasked. Could we guarantee that if he were to answer our plea, Chris, that his anonymity would be protected?
Absolutely. I mean, we did it with Parched for a whole series, didn't we?
We might reveal him at the end of the series, but, secret safe for 12.
Well, it'd be lovely. I mean, that's the other option of Banksy as well. I mean, first and foremost, we'd love you to just graffiti a wall and help pass the pod. But if you would like to reveal your identity on the podcast, we would obviously love to be part of that process.
Something else we need to chew over, boys. This is our 11th episode of this series. Usually we call a halt to things after 12. I don't think we should do that. I think we should carry on, but we often have a little mid-series break. Maybe the gallery could be one of the things we sort out.
I like this, yeah. That sounds great. Get the gallery sorted while we have a little... What are we going to do?
You never know, a couple of weeks? By then we might have Banksy involved. Fingers crossed we can have Neil Buchanan involved.
That Peter Crouch Podcast from BBC 5 Live.
Yes, lads. Will Hughes again. I've had a good think about this question. Would you rather get a bollocking from Fabio Capello or your missus?
Oh, that's good. I'd rather get a bollocking from my missus than
Why?
Fabio. Just because his bollockings was fucking harsh and embarrassing. You know, like in front of all the lads. At least if I'm getting a bollocking off my missus, you know, I'm just like in my own house. You know, like you haven't got the shame.
So would you rather get a bollocking from Abby in front of the full England squad or
Great
Fabio
question.
Capello at
Privately.
home?
Imagine getting a bollocking by your missus in front of the England team. Like you're getting told off at school or something. Like,
so Chris, this suggests to me that it's neither the identity of Fabio Capello nor Abby that makes the difference. It's purely that Crouchy doesn't want to be bollocked by anyone in front of the England squad.
the thing is with like Fabio Capello's the manager of England, you know what I mean? It's like you can half take a bollocking. In a relationship, aren't you supposed to be equal? Get a bollocking from like your wife, who's your lifelong soulmate.
Would you rather a Capello-style bollocking from Abs, or
Abby-style bollocking from Capello?
Bollocking from Capello.
The thought of Capello being at the door going, "What time do you call this? Where have you been? Peter, no. It's 2 in the morning, no. The fucking dog needs to go out as well. Don't come with me with that kebab on your breath. No. You've been a samurai again, you silly mate. No.
Boys, we've had a message from Drew. When I play for my bang average six-a-side team, my friend Harry is always claiming he got, quote, an assist to the assist. Meaning he passed it to the player who got the assist. Can you please tell him that this isn't a thing? It's doing our heads in.
Yeah, absolute nonsense. I mean, sometimes some of the assists are quite embarrassing, aren't they? You know, like come off your arse or something like that and someone knocks it in and you get an assist for it. I think sometimes we've become obsessed with stats, and I think, yeah, I do. I love a stat. I think it's great. I'm all for it, and it definitely improves you. But nothing beats watching a football match with your own eyes, and you can appreciate someone's ability without them having any stats, you know, or any amazing stats. You can go, oh my God, what a player. What a contribution he's making.
You say that, Crouchy, there is such a thing in football stats as the assist to the assist. It's known as either a pre-assist or a secondary assist.
It's a potential game changer, right? Because on fantasy football, you choose your team not on necessarily the best footballers, but the ones that are going to get you the most points. Yeah. If you introduce a pre-assist, you start to account for certain players that are just good central midfielders, for example, or just solid, more defensive-minded, rather than just attack.
The pre-assist could be Wilson Palacios giving it to Luka Modric half a yard next to him, and Luka played this fantastic pass through for the striker to finish.
Or the pre-assist could be Modric playing the most unbelievable through ball to Aaron Lennon, who is overlapped. Aaron Lennon pulls it back for the assist, and then you score the goal.
Yeah, but having said that, right, so if someone puts in a tackle on the edge of the box, right, and it breaks to someone who plays a pass and then they cross it in, you know, like a life-saving tackle, is that a key contribution? Just do away with the assist. Who had the key contribution to the goal?
So in that one, Lennon doesn't get the assist because Modric has done it with the through ball. Lennon has just squared it.
The key contribution is
the key contribution.
We stumbled on something here, boys. This is massive.
This is a game changer.
I like this a lot. I'm also going to throw in a couple of names. So I've done a bit of digging on this, on the pre-assist. I don't think it was this season. I think the season before last, the highest ranked players in the Premier League for the pre-assist / secondary assist, Kevin De Bruyne, Christian Eriksen.
Wow. So
it actually is. It underlines that key contribution thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, the key contribution is such an interesting take on it. The problem is, it's going from a fact, someone's played an assist, to
an interpretation.
In my opinion, this person did the most.
That's the thing. But like, football is a game of opinions, isn't it?
But the problem, Crouchy, like we talked last week about you and Defoe arguing about your goal. We're going to have a situation here now where you and Defoe are arguing about the pre-assist. You didn't mean that, just hit you on the head.
I can see people going mental in fantasy football every week because at least now with the assist, you know the last touch before the goal is the assist. Whereas if it becomes an interpretation of who is involved in the key moment, there's going to be carnage, all hell break loose. And I think in these times that we're living in at the moment, we don't need any more uncertainty.
Stirring speech, I wasn't expecting that.
We've got to say a massive thank you to Harry, though, who has come up with this idea of the assist to the assist, which is a bit of a shithousey way of saying it. He's clearly a cocky little shit. However, I do think Harry and people like Harry are going to change this world one day for the better.
Let's say we do get to this key contributor stat. Who's going to end up ruling on this? Dubious Goals Committee.
Dubious Goals.
Well, it won't be.
Men.
It'll be the Dubious Pre-Assist Committee.
Dubious Pre-Assist. Imagine that, Crouchy.
If I see a day where there's a Dubious Pre-Assist Committee, I'm just gonna hang my mic up.
You keep threatening to resign as soon as we mention the Dubious Goals Committee. He hates it. He keeps throwing down like really quite bad threats.
No, but the Dubious Pre-Assist Committee. Come on.
Are we not looking at this the wrong way? Because we're the first ones to think of this. Why don't we form it? The three of us could be the Dubious Pre-Assist Committee.
The pre-assist, would you like it to exist with the assist?
Well, yeah, because I think in some ways it is more important, because often assists are just given to strikers that have fucked up their shots. It's like you're being rewarded for a bad job.
Yeah, so what we need to do, so you're right, it doesn't want to be the Dubious Pre-Assist Committee. It needs to, what we are going to form, the three of us, is
Key contribution.
Exactly, the Key Contributor Committee.
That Peter Crouch Podcast from BBC 5 Live.
Did you hear last week Louis Theroux put an advert for his own podcast at the end of our episode? Tom, what happened? What's going on?
Boys, I have no idea what happened. Look, Theroux is a bigwig. He's very popular with Radio 4 types. I know he's interviewing people during lockdown. His podcast is called Grounded. It actually is made by Radio 4. I don't know if that's got anything to do with it.
Surely we should be allowed to go off the back of Radio 4 podcasts and advertise this podcast. Like, where's this podcast being advertised? That's what I want to know.
I don't mind Tom sort of selling a podcast at the end, but when I listened back to our last one, Louis Theroux just popped up like at the end of it, and no one told me about it. Give me the heads up if you want to advertise on our podcast, especially if you're working for Radio 4, because they hate us.
If Louis Theroux wants to appear at the end of the podcast, surely get him on at the start and then get him to ask a question at the end.
Maybe he has nothing to do with this, and it's just the Radio 4 lot.
Well, how do we know he's not going to appear at the end of this now? Like,
I'm worried now.
I don't know. Almost think don't stop talking in case he appears. You know,
should we just?
What podcast are you advertising today, Tom? It's not his, is it?
I don't know.
Is this the advert in a weird kind of way? Can we just let? We've talked about his podcast. Can we just let this be the advert?
Maybe that's what he's done. He's because he's an intelligent man, isn't he, Theroux? And he's done us twice. So not only has he crashed our podcast, but now on this one, we've just talked about his podcast again. He's so clever. Oh my goodness.
What a shithouse.
Whoa.
Shithousery of the finest order, innit?
Yeah.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.